Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of TADTalk. We're here again with my partner in crime over here. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. We've got two very definitive photographs behind us.
Yes, we do.
I got to tell you that your mother, her maiden name is Riley. And
is it really?
It is.
Wow.
You knew that, didn't you? And there could be nothing more Irish than the name Riley, except, as you say, if you put an O in front of it. And some of the funniest people in the world. Well, they always say there's a correlation between Liverpool and Ireland. You know, it's across from each other. And funny people. And our guest today is one of the funniest people we've known, definitely from Ireland as well. Check out this video.
Please welcome AdrianWalsh.
He's been working in America, and he's been getting a lot of laughs out there. And this fellow is different because he doesn't tell Irish jokes. Will you please welcome AdrianWalsh?
I had a nice journey down tonight. I actually drove down the M4 tonight. Anybody been on the motorway recently? Have you ever seen that? Right. Have you ever seen that sign on the motorway? Phone the Cones hotline. Right. Have you ever phoned it? I did. You know what it is? It's a cassette of somebody laughing. Ambulance response time because of hospital cutbacks is now 45 minutes. It's not unbelievable. If you fell down in the street with a heart attack or a stroke, take an ambulance 45 minutes to get to you. It's actually quicker to order a pizza and have the fella drop you off on the way back. I'm just concerned. Okay. And this concerns me greatly, because I, like most men, I'm a hypochondriac. And if you don't believe me, you ask my gynecologist. You really don't know what to believe in him. My father is 83 years young, and I mean 83 years young. My father has drank and smoked to excess all his life. And all the doctors have told him to stop drinking, to stop smoking. They're all dead. Now, I have never drank and I've never smoked in my life, but one day I'm going to be lying in a hospital bed dying of nothing. Can you imagine having that on your death certificate? What did he die from? Nothing. Just put boring on it. You know, my father's going to have in his death certificate ecstasy. When I was a young man, they used to say, what you want for fitness is plenty of eggs, plenty of milk, plenty of meat, plenty of protein. And we took that advice. Now we've all got heart disease. Aren't we happy about that? And what do they say now? We were wrong. Oh dear. What we should have is plenty of bran, plenty of fibre, plenty of roughage. No wonder there's a hole in the ozone layer. Every morning my father has a cooked breakfast: sausages, eggs, bacon, beans, fried bread. My father thinks high cholesterol is a Jewish holiday. But they're always coming out with stupid statements, aren't they? Don't eat fried food. What are you supposed to do with it? Take a photograph of it, show it to people. Look, I nearly ate. Fish is good for your brains. Rubbish. Have you ever seen a mackerel on Mastermind? True.
This man is funny. Welcome to the show, our special guest, AdrianWalsh. How are you, Adrian?
I'm very good. How are you, Terry and Nick? Lovely to see you.
Good to see you. Where are you located right now?
I live in a little village in Somerset called Burnham-on-Sea.
Okay.
And I mean, if you go up the street once, you've seen it twice, Terry.
Burnham-on-Sea. Never been there. Yeah, I know you've never been there.
No,
Somerset.
It's 35 miles south of Bristol.
Okay. But obviously the accent's not from there, so where did AdrianWalsh begin life?
Well, I met my mother in a hospital in Banbridge, in Northern Ireland.
Banbridge, Northern Ireland.
I was shocked. She only went in for ingrown toenails.
Funny. That's great. This is going to be one of those shows. Some of the funniest people I've ever worked with are from Ireland. So, Adrian, when you were growing up, how long did you live in Ireland for before you moved over to the UK?
I was 22 years old when I moved to the UK. I moved to Blackpool, spent 10 years in the wonderful entertainment capital of the world.
Of the world. And were you already a stand-up comic then at that time?
Yes, I'd already been doing it for 6 years.
Really? Since 16?
Yeah, I did my first summer season when I was 16. They were vaudeville comics, theatre comics, called Jimmy Fletcher and George Daniels. And I was 16 years old. And the information, what they passed on to me, if they'd been solicitors, would have cost me a fortune.
I bet. Wow, that was 16. I mean, it takes balls to get on stage and tell jokes, I think, anyway. But at 16,
I had no other options because at school I was sort of educated beyond my intelligence.
Well, you're from Northern Ireland. You were there at the time of Bestie. Was it never an aspiration to become a pro football player?
Well, it was because I had schoolboy international trials. But let's put it like this. If it had been today, the manager would have said, Walsh, get warmed up, you're coming off. Our PE teacher, he was an ex-sergeant in the parachute regiment. He used to always say to us, what we want, lads, is B plan first half and W plan second half. And I said, what's that, sir? He said, belt it and weld it.
Funny. Yeah, as you're younger in Northern Ireland, I'm sure there was a lot of aspirations to be George Best, but you chose the route.
My brother was a schoolboy international. He was a youth international. The schoolboy international team he played for, 8 of them became full internationals. 8 of them. That was in the area of Alec Elder. It was Terry Neal, Jimmy Nicholson,
Yeah.
who took over from Duncan Edwards.
Wow.
As a 16-year-old boy,
Wow.
Jimmy Nicholson took over from Duncan Edwards.
And of course, the name Duncan comes up many times on our show. So at 22, there you are in Blackpool, the entertainment capital of the world. And
I just wanted to make that sure.
yeah, exactly. And of course, we were the first 6 years of Nick's life were living in Blackpool. We lived up there in Bispham behind the Miners' Convalescent Home.
No, we lived in King Edward Avenue.
Okay, we lived on, where did we live? Warbreck Drive.
You're joking?
No.
Because the Cliffs Hotel, another hotel up there, was a fellow called Tom White, who played for Blackpool. But his brother was John White, who played for Spurs. You remember he got killed with the lightning?
I do remember that, yeah. I did, but I didn't see the correlation with Blackpool. So yeah, we lived in Bispham, but you're there in the 70s. I wasn't there till the early 90s. What were the summer seasons you did in the early 70s in Blackpool, Adrian?
Well, the only time I ever did a summer season was when I left Blackpool.
Really?
Yeah, because when I was there, I was still, I'd come out of doing 6 years in nightclubs in Northern Ireland. I was the youngest comedian to top the bill. I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And a fellow called Jackie Ray, who was a compere of the Talk of the North in Manchester,
Yeah.
had come home because his father had been killed in an accident. And his will, he had to come home to sort things out. And he started singing again. And he seen me working. And he didn't say it was funny. He said, Adrian, if you want to improve, you've got to come out of your comfort zone. And he put me in touch with an agent in Manchester called Harry Gunn. And I come over, my wife and I got married on the 24th of March, and that night we came away with the 2 suitcases, and that's all we had. My first gig was in Manchester. I was on £12 at the Sunnyside Club in Denton. I died so badly they paid me off. They gave me £6, and it cost me £7 to get a taxi home. Seriously.
My
God.
So I always say to young comedians, I said, look, I don't know all the answers, but the one thing I've done, I've made all the mistakes. And if I can help you and push you on, because in my career when I started, there wasn't one comedian ever turned me down for help and advice.
Yeah. No, there's You're absolutely right. There can be so many pitfalls in our career, in our industry. So as you, and especially back then, and being a stand-up comic, and to be able to get the advice of someone like you, who's just literally been there and done that, would be amazing. That's for sure.
Because the funny thing is, in life, nobody starts good at anything.
Yeah.
And when you start as a comic, you actually work the hardest venues when you're least experienced. And when you get better, you work the better and the easier venues. So it's really the wrong way around.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, this won't mean anything to our American viewers, but there's nothing quite like the upbringing in the industry of going up to the northeast of England and doing a 10-day tour in the working men's clubs. staying at a place in Spennymoor called The Farm, where all the bands and people stay, and then you're doing a no pickup in the afternoon on a Sunday afternoon, then a no pickup on a Sunday night, and a no pickup on a Monday night. And boy, those were the days, eh?
Yeah, but what I feel sorry for young performers today, this is a strange thing to say, there's nowhere to be bad anymore.
Yeah.
I can remember in Manchester doing 3 to 4 shows a night, and you could have done at least 2 shows a night for 7 nights a week. Yeah. And if you had a bad show, you had to get over it, because in an hour's time you had another show. And if that was bad, you had another go the next night.
Yeah.
Because the old comedian used to say to me, he said, Adrian, yesterday doesn't equal today. Doesn't matter how you did yesterday. Today's a new opportunity to have a go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for those who don't know what that scene was like, just a kind of an idea, and I'm talking about the Manchester scene. I don't know if you remember, Adrian, there was an agent there called Tom Ivers, Cream Entertainment.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember Tom? So you'd be in Manchester. So Manchester's a massive city, and I think geographically it's probably only 50 miles across from one end, from Wythenshawe all the way over to the other end. But there were hundreds and hundreds of these little clubs. And with Tom, you would invariably do what they call doubles or triples in one night, where you'd get to a club, do a 45-minute spot or set, and then drive to the next one and do another one and drive to the next one and do 3 different venues in one night. It's crazy.
Even when I was starting, you would do a working men's club, 9 o'clock spot, then you would do a working men's club probably 10 o'clock, then you would do a nightclub, and then you would go into a casino, and then there was Mr. Smith's, the Del Sol, that used to operate at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I remember on some of the big nights, you could be doing 5 gigs in one night.
Yeah, but you were also learning all the time.
Yeah.
No, you were working with pros. And I was lucky, the pros in those days, many of them were like act doctors, would say things to you. Why did you walk on that punchline? When you walk on, I remember touring, that first big tour was with Frankie Vaughan.
Yeah.
And Frankie Vaughan always used to say, when you walk on stage, pick a bow. Why? Let them look at the suit. For the first 15 seconds, an audience listens with their eyes.
Yeah. A phrase I use all the time.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back after the break, I want to ask you about some of your favorite comedians over the years. There's been so many, and we've had names of comedians come up on this show, people who are funny men like Ken Dodd and Tommy Cooper and so on, but I'd love to hear yours. So we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we'll come back with Adrian Walsh. We'll see you then.
Look forward to it, my friends.
Welcome to TAD Creative Studios, Arizona's state-of-the-art creative facility. We are a turnkey operation, so you're not wasting any time on setup. Simply show up and start rehearsing or recording. We offer our on-the-fly video switching and editing, meaning you can walk away with the edited footage the very same day. We can come to your location, and our setup is ready-made for indoors and outdoors. Our 30-foot LED video wall provides the perfect backdrop for bands and entertainers. The results are amazing. Create your next YouTube presentation on our multifunction interview set. Over 20 years experience creating and producing the most effective scissor reels in the market. TAD Creative Studios. Check it out for yourself.
And we're back with part 2 and our special guest, Adrian Walsh. And we're going to kick off part 2 with one of Nick's random questions.
It's a bit later today than it usually is, isn't it?
No,
Why
I've
is
done
that?
this. No, I'm switching things around, keeping it fresh, waking you up.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
All yours.
All right. So the random question today is, if you could be anywhere in the world right now, anywhere in the world, where would you be?
Talking to Nick and Terry.
What's that?
Talking to you and I.
Oh, that is a false answer.
From Somerset.
Nose is looking a bit brown there, but that's okay.
I'm going to tell. I know what Adrian's answer really is.
What is that?
It would be anywhere in the world, maybe a ship, on a stage, entertaining an audience. That's where we want to be, right, mate?
That is so true, Terry. That is so true.
It's true. It doesn't matter.
The greatest venues left.
Yeah, on the ships.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
As a performer, great lights, great sound, great audiences, and it's always a joy to work.
No, absolutely. And but do we miss what we do? Do we really miss what we do? Let's talk about some of the the older comedians. Now, you're a young man, age 27.
Am I 27, am I?
26. 26?
You'd think you was my father.
Yeah. But we've done 100 and odd shows, and you've heard all the names of comedians that have come up. People like Peter Kay, who I know you love, and Lee Evans.
Yeah.
But the older guys that you've heard, Tommy Cooper and Bob Monkhouse and so on. But Adrian, tell us some of the guys over the years that you think are some of the funniest men that you've known.
Well, it all started for me. My dad took me to the Empire Theatre in Belfast when I was about 8, 9 years old. And there was a comedian on stage called Freddie Sales.
Okay.
One of the first English comedians to work in Vegas. And he did about 8 or 9 minutes. And I sat there and I thought, that's what I want to do. I don't know the fact that I'm quite a lazy human being. I thought, 8 minutes a night, that's enough for me.
Right.
Or was being in the ambience of the laughter all around. And I'd never been in a theatre before. Because in those days, going into the theatre, there was buskers outside, street performers. And you had people tap dancing, you had people juggling, you had a one-man band. I believe he broke up later, but you get into the theatre, you seen a show before you even went in.
Wow. Amazing. So what about some of the stuff in the 70s and 80s? Do you have any guys like that who really reached out to you?
No, the thing, my uncle Billy lived in East Islip in New York, and he was a car salesman for Volkswagen. But he loved comedians, and he loved comedians like Don Rickles.
Yeah.
But my all-time favorite comic was an American from New York called Alan King.
Brilliant.
And if you ask Nick, if you've never heard of Alan King, go on YouTube and look up something called Survive By.
Okay.
And watch Alan King work. But I loved the Freddie Romans, the Mal Z. Lawrence, the Dick Capris, all that, the Milton Berles, Johnny Carson, just to watch him work. I was lucky enough to write for Bob Monkhouse.
Yeah.
And as a nightclub performer, there was nobody touched him. My all-time, I loved Dave Allen, I loved Dottie, just sincere. But I think nowadays, for me, Michael McIntyre, one of the hardest things for a comic is to be visually funny and verbally funny. And this young lad can take a subject, and he's a bit like a hyper Jerry Seinfeld, because Seinfeld goes into a subject and there's nothing left. Even my son watched him years ago when he first seen Jerry Seinfeld when he was a young lad. And he said, Dad, there's no more jokes left. And that's a great comic. That's a great, when you can pick us, Jim Gaffigan at the minute is a great comic. Some wonderful comics.
Yeah.
When I started, the only thing you could buy was a mini ha-ha book to get jokes or to find out about jokes. There's nobody there to tell you how to write jokes. But to be a young comedian nowadays, there's Netflix. You can go and see something on Netflix, some wonderful, wonderful stand-up.
Yeah. No, there is a lot. And it's so easy to get to these days.
Yeah. And you were talking about Tommy Cooper. I was on the show he died on.
Were you really?
Oh, wow.
There was Jimmy Tarbuck, dancers, then me, flying pickets, and then Tommy Cooper. I still maintain to this day, he's seen my act and thought, this is the end of show business. I'm out of here.
Well, of course, so dramatic, him dying on stage, and if anyone hasn't seen it, dramatic in the respect that there was no drama in the way that he just slumped. But in retrospect, when you know that he just passed away. But, I mean...
The saddest part about it, and there's actually a bit of relief to it, I guess.
Irony, I think?
Irony, yeah, is that he passed out on the floor, and the audience just laughed.
Just
they thought it was part of the show, part of the act, just because that's who he was. That's something he would do.
And as a comedian, if you could die and make your audience laugh, it's probably how you would want to go.
Well, I've died many times on stage without making them laugh.
I bet you have. Well,
the funny thing about that night was Alan Ainsworth, the conductor, he's passed away. Wonderful producer, David Bell. Tommy Cooper's son was on the sidelines. He's passed away. Dustin G has passed away. Howard Keel has passed away. And every time I meet Les Dennis, I always go, how you feeling, Les?
Yeah, you and me. Well, let's jump to you on stage, because I know you had a bit of a frightening experience 5 years ago. I believe you had a stroke while you were on stage. Is that right?
No, I had a major stroke while I was on stage.
Really?
And I must be the only person, when I had a stroke, thought to myself, here's 20 minutes of material I never thought I was going to use.
So can you talk us through it? I mean, I can't imagine how it would have felt.
No, well, the strange thing is that they always say about the face and the arm and the speech. I did 2 one-hour shows while I was having a stroke, and all I experienced was heavy legs. I do a cod Irish dance thing, and I went to do it, and my legs wouldn't lift. And the audience looked at me like, what's wrong with this lunatic? And then when I got into bed that night, then the next morning, they took me off to the hospital. I had a CAT scan. The doctor came to see me. He said, Mr. Walsh, you've had a major stroke, which 80% of people die or are left with locked-in syndrome. And the next 24 hours are the most important. You could have another major stroke and die. But whatever you do, get some rest and relax.
My God.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
But I was listen, I cannot tell you what I was looked after. I was 20 months out of work before I got back to working on ships. So all those young entertainers at the minute, we were going through a lot of stress and worry about when it's going to come back again. Let me tell you this, it will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but it will come back. And the only thing you can do is live in the moment and prepare for that day to come back, because people are going to want entertainment more than they've ever wanted it before. So be ready, because they'll be ready for you.
We're all ready as well, aren't we?
Oh, yes.
I've got the starting blocks here.
Yeah, no kidding. We're ready, and we can't wait to be a part of helping you get back on those ships, Adrian. You've cruised around the world and entertained audiences around the world. Here's a question. I'm going to ask you the same one as well, because you've done the same thing. What is your favorite port? As cruise entertainers, we go all around the world and we get to stop at some ports that are amazing and some that aren't so. What's your favorite port you've ever stopped in?
Well, I think Sydney and Hong Kong are outstanding.
Yes.
But I've always had great love for Miami as well, because for 30 years I had a home in Lakeland in Florida.
Yeah.
And I always loved to get off the ship and go to the mall.
Yeah, in there.
Stargrass Mills, or go to the one downtown. And with a bunch of entertainers, I worked a lot with a wonderful act called, I don't know if you know, Paul Boland.
Paul Boland?
Yes, he works a lot for RCCL. And another wonderful act, one of the best acts I worked with on ships was Scott Record.
Yeah, we represent Scott. Scott's fantastic.
Oh, just an amazing act.
Yeah,
and a lovely, lovely fella.
Yeah, superb.
A great pro. And Scott comes up with great bits of advice, and it's like those two old pros I work with. I remember dying on stage one night when I was 16 or 17 at the time. I'm walking off, and they got the hold of me and said, "Don't ever walk off shaking your head. Take a bow. Take a bow like you've stormed them." And I said, "But it was terrible out there." He said, "Listen, son, no matter how bad it is on stage, remember one thing. Anybody in a graveyard would swap with you."
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So,
I've been on ships. I've had a standing ovation my first show, died in my second show. I've had a standing ovation on my first show, a second show, and died in my first show. The one thing you'll find for young entertainers about to start, you never get two shows exactly the same.
Never.
They're both great shows. You get a variation. They'll never be exactly the same.
Absolutely. So we got Hong Kong, Sydney, and Miami. What's your favorite port?
Okay.
And I guess Adrian's just allowed us to choose 3.
Up to 3? Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Then I'm going to say 3 as well.
Go.
I'm going to say Turkey.
Which port? No, Ephesus?
Ephesus was amazing.
Yeah.
So Ephesus.
I think it's called Kusadasi.
Kusadasi.
Yeah.
That's the one. Kusadasi. I always forget the name of this one for some reason. Trondheim.
Oh, Trondheim.
Norway.
Trondheim's gorgeous.
Norway.
No, that's not only a beautiful port, but it's worth 900 points in Scrabble.
That is correct.
If you get dark, but I'm dyslexic, so there's no way I can spell that.
And Liverpool.
Oh, Liverpool is a great port.
Do you know something? I never did a cruise around the British Isles until about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's a wonderful, wonderful cruise.
Yeah, it really is.
You go around Ireland and around Scotland, up around the Hebrides and around that way. And
Yeah.
I would recommend it to anybody.
I totally agree. We did that, and yeah, I mean, Liverpool is one of the best cities to sail into.
My mum and dad were married in Liverpool.
Were they?
My dad was working for Camel Lurch during the war.
Great city.
And they lived in Birkenhead. The dad used to go and watch Tranmere Rovers on a Friday night.
Why did you do that? Didn't you like football?
Funny you should say that.
All right.
Watch it again.
I'm going to pick my 3 ports, Adrian. My 3 favorite ports to go to
Okay.
are Tallinn, Estonia.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that place. A place in Iceland called, no? Is it Iceland or is it Norway? I don't know, I'm getting old. It's called Seyðisfjörður.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
in Norway. And Seyðisfjörður.
If I tried to say that, I'd have another stroke.
That's a great
You say you're
place.
getting old. Listen, I'll tell you how you know you're getting old. This is a test for you.
Okay.
When you get in the shower and you've got your socks on,
Then you're
you
getting
put your
old.
glasses on and you've already got a pair on.
Yeah.
And the worst one is when you go to take your glasses off and you haven't got them on.
I'll just take my glasses off here. Adrian, how old are you now?
August the 10th, I turned 50 and 252 months.
Good answer. Brilliant.
So I'm 71.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So it's, like my dad made it to 94. My dad's 3 sisters. One was 2 weeks off 100. Another one was 97. Another one was 95. They were all in the same regiment during the war. They're one of the first regiments to go into Germany. I now know why Hitler shot himself.
Well, look, if you've still got 20, 25 years, then I'm still counting on at least 15 or 20 years of commission, right?
Well, that's true. But I work out. I'm probably fitter now than I've ever been. My blood pressure is 116/64. My cholesterol is 3.5. I'm starting back at the gym next week, which I do 3-4 days a week. If anything, I'm going to look really good for the autopsy. But you know, the funny thing is, if life gives you 100 reasons to cry, you've got to show life you've got 1,000 reasons to laugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things, when you have a stroke, you get what you call spasticity, where you get muscles jumping. This is more at the beginning. And one night I fell asleep with my Fitbit on. And when I woke up in the morning, I'd done 196 steps and I hadn't even left the bed.
Well, it's something that you did not lose with the stroke for sure, and that's the ability to be funny, Adrian. This has been just hilarious. Funny man.
Listen, I honestly can say I'm probably the funniest comic in the world, but by looking at my act, you can't tell. That's not my line. That's a great comic called Jackie Mason's.
Yeah. Well, talk about Irish comics. There are comics like yourself, Roy Walker, Paddy Green, Frank Carson, some funny men that have come. What was that?
Jimmy Cricket.
Jimmy, yeah, boy.
I did my first TV series with Jimmy Cricket.
Did
and
you?
then Frank, I worked a lot with Frank. When Frank passed away, they asked me to fill in for Frank for 3 shows. And it was such a delight. I knew Frank so well.
Yeah. I got to work with Frank in the late 70s. I worked with a lot of the comedians back then. And he was funny. And I saw him at the Blackpool Grand, gosh, I don't know how long ago now. It was probably 10 years, maybe 8 years ago. Just a couple of years before he died. And he was in he was opening for Joe Longthorne at Blackpool Grand. And he was so funny. Just absolutely. Have you seen Frank Carson?
No.
You must watch Frank Carson. I mean, it is boom, 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 boom.
The thing about Frank is you don't work with Frank, you listen to Frank. When I first come over to England, Frank lived 13 Wolverton Avenue, not far from Bisping.
Right.
And he did a lot of good things for me. And he said to me, would you come and do a charity show for me, Adrian? I said, certainly. He said, I'll go on, do 5 minutes, then I'll introduce you. He did 55 minutes. He pulled them apart, and then he introduced me. I did quite well that night. And when he went on after me, he said, did you enjoy that? Everyone went, yeah. He said, I didn't like him.
Brilliant.
You know, Frank, you know, many philosophers, many great writers in life have tried to come up and say things about humor. But Frank got it totally right in 3 words, or 4 words. It's the way you tell them.
It's the way you tell them.
And you know something, Frank, I knew his act forwards and backwards and sideways, and he still made me laugh every time.
Yeah.
And he would phone me up all hours of the night to tell you a joke. He would sleep for 4 hours a night, and if I had a few sherbets the night before, he would waken up like he hadn't had anything. He was an absolute freaking. He was really, for our American friends, he was a bit like Henny Youngman.
Okay.
You know, because Henny Youngman was, you know, there's a comic in America that does all the roasts, and he told a lovely story about people like Frank. People say, well, why doesn't he settle down? Why doesn't he? But what you've seen with Frank is that was him.
Yeah.
You know, Henry Youngman was coming out of the Friars Club one day, and he had said to Jeffrey Ross, I'll see you later. He was on the phone, and Jeffrey Ross come out behind him, and Henry Youngman was on his own. He was a man in his late 80s, and a pigeon landed in front of him. And Henry Youngman looked at the pigeon and said, "Any posts for me?" Now, he didn't know, there's nobody around him, nobody near him, but he still had to do the joke with a pigeon. And Frank would have done that. Frank would have stopped people that didn't recognize him and say, "Don't you recognize me?" he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was amazing comedian, as all of them are. As you are, Adrian.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever work with one of the great nightclub acts, Jukes and Lee?
Who?
Ronnie Jukes and Ricky Lee.
Oh, yeah, Jukes and Lee, yeah.
They were an amazing nightclub act.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name for a long time. Dukes and Lee, fantastic. You won't know them.
No.
It's another YouTube wormhole to go down.
Oh, you got to go. It was a family act. The sons were the band, and the mother-in-law played the piano, and the wife sang, and Ronnie told jokes and tap danced and did impressions. Wonderful, wonderful performer.
Back in the day that you had to do everything. Adrian, it's been brilliant having you on the show. We're out of time on air, but it's been so good having you on. And boy, you've made all our crew laugh, and they're Americans, so God knows, and a Canadian.
Listen, could you tell me the surgeon that did that photograph at the back?
That one. When was that taken?
Yeah. Oh, I was probably about, let me think, probably about 26.
1826?
Oh, thanks, Terry.
Adrian, it's been...
It's not that late now anyway, is it?
No, it's not.
I had a fringe then, and I can't... What I have now, I've got fluffy hair. Nobody told me I would have fluffy hair. And I lost 2 stone when I had my stroke. And my feet shrank. My feet went down a size. I never knew that would happen.
Wow.
I used to look at my feet. It was like standing on a bunch of bananas. But now they look like toes.
Have you enjoyed it today?
Yeah, it's been good.
It's a good show, isn't it? Thanks so much for being on the show, Adrian.
And a pleasure to meet you, Terry.
You too, buddy.
I hope one day I'll be sitting beside you when Huddersfield are playing you in the Premiership.
Well, I certainly hope so too. We'll have to have a whole nother show talking about football, but I can promise you that a lot of our viewers from over here in America are sick and tired of me talking about football. So we'll do our football on our next show. To everybody watching TADTalk, thanks so much for joining us.
Some great young Americans coming through now.
There are. Well, we'll get them on the next show because they'll kill me. Thanks, everybody. You take care. I'll see you on the next episode of TADTalk.
It's been a real pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Here's to the next booking.
Yes.